floor lights turned up. You know, the lights on the floor. Yeah. When they turn up, you get a bit blinded and you can't see very well.
What do you think about those people's reaction? Because they are jumping around, they're crying, they're behaving like flowers and all those things. Have you already seen it? What do you think about the behavior?
Well, it's nothing nicer than when I can see that they're moved to dance.
Yeah.
That's great. But, tonight was a very... It's the first gig we've had like tonight, which is a very musical gig. I wasn't conscious of an audience tonight, and I was very much into into myself and into my playing, and into the other musicians playing. It was a very personal performance from the band. But we all had a great time, and I think the audience appreciated it. But I'm just beginning to think that at this sort of concert, when you got so many people, it's not just what the audience wants, is to hear the music. They want to be encouraged to participate and shout and scream and just really let go of something. And although it was a great reaction,
really great. Yeah. But what's interesting for me was to see you and your band in the late phase of the concert. You behave like a family. You're not just friends. You behave like a family. Have you been friends for a longer time, or?
With some of them, I've known them since last year. But it's very important to get to know people and to get people's cooperation. It's not enough for them to just come and do the gig and play the right notes. They have to really, in order to make this particular concert work, they have to give themselves. And it's in doing that we do become very close, and maybe to you seem like a family.
Yeah, I was told you play a lot of instruments. Do you know how many instruments you play? Each instrument? You prefer keyboards, of course.
No,
you don't?
I'm a guitar player. I prefer guitar.
I thought you prefer keyboards.
The instruments that I feel that I can express something on are electric guitar, acoustic guitar, Spanish guitar, bass guitar, string things like mandolin, bouzouki, piano, synthesizers, and to a certain extent percussion, timpani and vibraphone. But that's it really. And Northumbrian bagpipes, I can play them quite well.
Was it?
Bagpipes, you know bagpipes?
Yeah, I see. What I saw, do you know how many instruments have been on stage tonight? There's a lot. It's not a band, it's an orchestra in the meantime.
Yeah. There's, let's think, 2 vibraphone, marimba, timpani, cymbals, drums. There's at least 8 synthesizers, 3 guitars, flute, clarinet, about 25, I should think.
That's really a lot. If somebody came to you and would say, please write down the tunes you play, would you be able to write it down, to fix it on a sheet of paper? Because I think your music is so complicated, with all those instruments, with all the ideas you have in your music. How would you ever write it down?
I couldn't write it down, honestly couldn't. I could write down the notes, but every tune has to be played in exactly the right way.
Yeah.
And you can do that with timing. You can hang back certain notes. The tune should speed up and slow down at certain points, and it should be played with a certain intensity of feeling, certain amount of vibrato and crescendo on every note. So just to write that down, it would sound like nothing at all.
Really? I also couldn't imagine how somebody could write down computer tunes, synthesizer tunes. I couldn't imagine how it could be done. Could you?
Well, really, my music is in its simplest form about emotions.
Yeah.
And emotions need a person to express them. You can't get a machine to express an emotion.
Yes, that's right. But tell me something. You just talk about emotions. How do you develop your tunes? Because how do you develop your tunes? Because I think at first there's a feeling of your feeling, and then you develop the tune that becomes a whole tune. When is it finished? How do you develop it on your own or together with the others of your group? How is the music composed?
Well, when I work on my own, I develop it.
can imagine, yeah. Oh, it's like...
You with her about, Sal?
No, it doesn't matter.
Do you mind?
No, I don't mind.
Okay, so how do I develop a tune? Well, any tune, be it very, very simple, 6 notes or something, if I feel it right, and I can play it right, if I don't feel it, it's not a tune, it doesn't work. But then to get some other musician to feel it the same way I feel it is very, very difficult, because musicians and people are very different. And the musicians that I have on tour with me now are technically very, very good indeed. They can play absolutely anything. Give them any bunch of notes and they can play them.
You also already...
So in that way, it's quicker and easier for me to teach them the music.
Yeah.
But you get them to play it in the right mood and the right atmosphere.
You just give them an idea and they play. Do you play it first and they play it behind? How does it work?
Well, it depends on the piece, really. If it's something that I know they can play right because it's in their style, then there's no problem. But if it's something that is my style, which is I'm becoming to realise more and more is based in folk music, and then it's very difficult to explain, because everything I hear on the radio or television or on record I'll use in some point. I notice my subconscious mind picks up on that. So there's bits that should be like South American music, there's bits that should be like African music, and there's bits that should be like Japanese music. There's all different forms that have worked their way into what I write. But other people don't know that. They'll just hear a tune, la 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 la, and there's billions of ways that tune can work. But there's only one way it can work in my musical world.
But you just told me your music is quite simple. You said the 6 tones. I don't agree, because...
Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's really not.
No, there's complicated.
There is complicated. Nobody ever would be able, for example, to whistle a tune if you are doing something like that with the tunes you play. They are so complicated that I can't imagine you are able to play the same tune twice the same way. Would you agree?
Let's think now. There are complicated tunes. There definitely are. There's one tune in Incantations which I still can't play. I'm just beginning to learn how to play it. But it was a tune that was worked out mathematically, and half mathematically and half by chance. And it's something that I've yet got to learn how to play properly. It's with the vibraphones and electric guitar. But there are other tunes that are very, very simple, just 2 notes, da-dum. So you can play da-dum with so much expression.
That's right,
Or you can just go da-dum. How boring.
Oh, but you're helped by technique. Without the technique, it wouldn't work. What you're just explaining. It's a lot of technique.
Well, technique is a fantastic resource to be able to call upon, and that's where all the hard work comes from in music, is learning technique. But once you have it, I don't think a mistake a lot of musicians make is that they feel that they, in order to justify themselves, they have to use their technique. But you don't need to use technique. It should be there if necessary. If you have a complicated piece of music, you've got the technique to be able to play it. But if you've got 2 notes, you have to put your whole being and your whole expression into those 2 notes. That's much more difficult than technique. And well, it's not difficult; it's a gift, really. And I think that's what makes a very good musician, if they can play 2 notes really well.
Really well, To come back to the point you just said before, that you are able to do the same piece twice, the same style, the same way. But I know, I have heard you yesterday, for example. So you change your program
in Vienna.
You change your program. The one day you play the tune on the 3rd place, and the next day on 4th place. This is not always the same concert on different days. Am I right?
That's right. I'm still trying to find a concert that develops, because although we're playing lots of different pieces of music, we are in fact playing one concert, and so this concert has to develop. And I haven't found. I think I might have found the right combination of pieces in the right order. It's a question of swapping things around until you know that you have a very good chance of always catching the audience's spirit and getting them really happy.
Do you listen to the audience, the reaction of the audience, really?
Oh yes.
And it depends your reaction. It depends on the audience reaction. Yeah.
Yes.
Really, change your program, just the way the audience behaves.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. I think today is not the last day, but near the last day of the concert tour. Am I right?
No, tomorrow's the last day.
Tomorrow is the last day. Yeah.
Yes.
Where is it?
Heidelberg.
Heidelberg.
Heidelberg. Yes.
Heidelberg. And how often have you been on stage in the meantime on this tour?
On this tour?
Yeah.
No, more than that. No,
More
we
than
did all in England. I think about 15 dates, I should think, so far.
Well, apart from the fact that it's a hard work, isn't it sometimes boring for you seeing the people's reaction always at the same time, at the same moment, the same way, or do they react different?
It's not really, because I always think of ways of perfecting it. I really want it to be as good as it possibly can be, and I almost certainly will never achieve that. And so I've got a perfect excuse for not finding it boring, as long as I'm working towards that.
Brings me to a final idea. The people in Heidelberg tomorrow must be glad, because you've had time all the tour to improve, and tomorrow they have
everybody. That's right. Well, everybody gets a different concert. The very first concert we played was at a university in Loughborough.
Yeah.
And they enjoyed it, but I was very depressed because it was. I didn't feel it was anywhere near what I wanted to do in a concert. It worked as a concert, but it didn't work for me. You see.
As I understand, you're right in the beginning of this interview. Tonight you're content.
I am content with musically, yes, but going on stage in front of a very large audience like we had tonight is something more than just playing music. You have to project something to the audience. I don't know what it is. You project yourself. You have to include them in what in some ways can compare to some sort of ceremony or some sort of celebration, a group celebration, like people used to do a long time ago at festivals and things. A big party, really. It's something akin to that, really. You have to include the audience, allow them to feel included. What happened tonight was that musically we were very introverted and we were playing for ourselves.
And you caught the audience, I thought.
We didn't as much as we have done in some concerts.
Really?
Yes, and because I've consciously worked hard to include them. And tonight I did to a certain extent, but I was very introverted tonight.
You just say you were introverted. Doesn't mean tonight you played for yourself, not for the audience, but in first step, in first line for yourself and for your other musicians. Really?
Yes.
And therefore it was better.
No, it wasn't better. In fact, I much prefer to include the audience. I think that's what a live concert is all about, including the audience. It just happened to be that tonight I was in a certain mood and everybody else was in a certain mood, and we were very insular on the stage. And obviously we would have noticed if there wasn't an audience, but possibly for the audience it was a more special occasion. But I don't think that they felt included in what was happening on stage tonight. Not the bulk of them. Some of them did. Some of them did, yes.
Well, if I look at my tape recorder, I think I must stop now.
Okay.
It's just a reason because the tape is running out. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Wish
you.
you much success tomorrow also. And hope to see you next year in Germany again.
Yes, I will do.
Yeah?
We'll come, yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.